Get Sweaty with Leddy, a wellness program about pain management. Hey everyone, welcome to Get Sweaty with Leddy. I have an incredible guest today, a man that I consider to be the greatest healer in the world because I've experienced firsthand the incredible benefits of his modality. You may have seen me mention him before in some of my content. I did a video in Santa Barbara after my week-long experience at the Genius of Flexibility, and I even brought him here for Spring Park Awakening, talked about him in Richard Gregson's episode, and now we get to hear from the man himself, Bob Cooley. Hello everybody. Welcome to maybe the most exciting episode of Get Sweaty with Leddy in the history. Okay. Bob just told me to not put him on a pedestal, and here I am putting him on the pedestal because I'm sorry, there's nothing I can do about it. You're a legend, and I'm so grateful that I've been introduced to you.
When Josh came to meet me and stuff like that, I go, when you tell people, tell them that I got to meet you. Don't set me up. Right? Because if you set a person up, then Americans in particular will just want to knock you down.
Understandable.
So I want to be put just equal to other people that way always, because I'm into intelligence and genius and stuff like that, right? And so if you're into that, you're into everybody else's intelligence, and that's how you get intelligent. Mm-hmm. Not by throwing your own out there, right?
Right.
Yeah. Who wants to be in a room where you're the most talented person? I mean, if you're talented physically, you want to be people that challenge you. And the same thing in everything else, health and everything else, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So you can see how good Josh looks because we put him together yesterday, and you can see I didn't get put together yesterday. So then I don't have the same stuff. He looks much better, see?
What can I say?
Okay, right. You're like, thanks, Bob.
Yeah.
Thanks, guy.
Well, it takes someone like you who's experienced all this type of pain that is able to put me back together again. Oh, I didn't even know I was going to come up with a rhyme right there.
Yeah, it's really important, actually. In other words, in order to, when somebody's been involved with the kind of physical extreme distresses you've been under, it's like a broken vase, and you're putting that thing back together, only unlike a vase, a person can regenerate. But each piece, you go after these different pieces and put them together, right?
Yeah, and I feel the regeneration. You've mentioned something when we started stretching yesterday that you haven't come across anybody with more aches and pains than me.
Yeah, what happened for me was that after my accident and stuff, like if I went to somebody's house for dinner, I couldn't sit in a chair. I'd have to be on the floor. That was the only place I was really comfortable because I would be stretching all the time on the floor. But the extreme nature of the variety of things that happen to your body, both biomechanically and physiologically, were beyond things that happened to me. I had other kinds of things happen to me that didn't happen to you. And so we just kept interfacing with you. Yesterday, Eric and Josh, Eric runs the studio in Boston, and Josh works in Santa Barbara and also travels with us. And so when the three of us were working with you, and Richard was helping us also. And so when we did that, we're like going after where do you have the dense fascia and scar tissue in your body. And it looks like from the outside that when we're moving you, that we're creating huge forces to be put into your body. That's not true, actually. What's happening is that the moment you make a movement on a person, the muscle groups that are stretching start contracting naturally. And when they do that, that fascial material has huge resistive forces compared to the strength of the muscle. And so, though it looks like we're putting force into your body, you're the one that's creating the force, and we're just feeling where the resistive path is. So we're making the movement. From the outside, it looks like we're creating the force, but no, you're creating the force. And we're just deciding by the feel of your body and by your input what directions to go into. So it's very different in a feeling than it looks like from the outside.
Yeah, and I mean, from a feeling standpoint, when you're experiencing an assisted stretch, especially with Bob, it is, I mean, you are engaging parts of your body that you're not able to tap into in a sense, you know? And when we were stretching yesterday, I could feel, so much around my hip areas and on the outside of my legs.
Yeah.
And it just, I hadn't slept as good last night than I can't even remember,
So what happened was that is that when we found the scar tissue in and around his IT band, particularly in the hamstrings, that's where people carry it the most, is in their lateral hamstring, but the other hamstrings too. And when we're taking that out, a person doesn't have any feeling in that part of the body until you remove the scar tissue. Then you have more real estate for the muscles to actually develop and for the tissues to be repaired, of course. And so the more you take out the scar tissue, the more feeling you actually have. Otherwise, we'll be stretching you, and you can see us struggling like crazy to make that movement to counter the forces you're generating. And then as we make that movement, then you start getting more feeling, because it's an instant removal of the dense fascia and scar tissue and a cumulative progression of that change. And the enzymes that are released when you contract the muscle and stretch it, they are breaking it down, that scar tissue and stuff. And there's also hormones coming from your circulatory system, arterial blood flow, that break down scar tissue in your body. But the person doesn't feel that scar tissue. They feel other tissue that is okay. So as we kept doing it, that you would start getting more and more feeling.
Right, because that dense fascia, that scar tissue that was created from a physical or an emotional trauma is essentially weighing me down, right? And it's preventing that feeling. It's like if I was going to scratch my leg and there was a big pile of mud on it, I wouldn't be able to scratch through that mud. But if I'm able to release that in the form of the resisted stretching, now I can feel that area.
Yeah.
So that mud or that dense fascia that's blocking up all my muscles is gone, and now I can feel.
And now you have both more regeneration of your muscle tissue and your tendons and ligaments and all the other kinds of 16 tissues in your body. It's much more regenerative than people know, right? Mm-hmm. But at the same time, what happens is that you start to actually have feelings that are associated with that. So when you work on certain muscle groups, you might get awareness of a physiological change. Like you might notice, like, wow, my blood pressure is going down, or wow, I feel much more relaxed around my heart area. You might start feeling physiological things happening in your body. And on a psychological front, those traumas that can be physical or psychological or emotional or spiritual that are showing up as scar tissue in your body, when you remove those, you're now capable of functioning in a way that you weren't functioning during that trauma. And so then you can now afford for the trauma to come up as a memory. But now you're being in a way that you didn't know how to be then. And that's why the trauma wasn't processed. So everybody thinks it's about the trauma, and I'm agreeing they're horrific events. They're ungodly things people do to each other and everything happens. But the real issue is, like, how did you, compared to somebody else, address that particular type of trauma? And when you do, and you can't handle it, then it's stuck in your body. So when you naturally stretch, whether it's self-stretching or assisted stretching, then what ends up happening is that you are removing that traumatized tissue, that chaotic tissue. The fascial material becomes chaotic instead of very tensegrity and suspension. And so then what happens is that you end up you experience being in a way you couldn't be then. And that affords you, psychologically, you're protected from it before that, to not have the memory in some ways, or some aspects of the memory. And instead the memory starts coming up. And when the memory comes up, actually, you're now being at that moment the way you couldn't be then. And that way you're now being invades that past event. And it's as if you're being that way now, then, the way you are now. And it actually gets you to process that trauma situation, so that if you had been that way then as you are now, you wouldn't have kept that trauma in your body. And so now you're erasing those past traumas so you can change the past. It's a very real phenomenon.
Yeah, and that's kind of a great explanation of how I've been able to operate at such a high level over the past few months. I've said it a few times in some of my episodes that I'm just operating on a different wavelength, and I truly, believe and feel and am experiencing firsthand.
Giving credit for how that happened for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my body was in a traffic jam, like a bottleneck.
Yes.
And now the bottleneck has been removed and everything can just function better.
I think it's a newer phenomena in consciousness, and America's ahead of the rest of the world on this one, is that your body is the foundation for your development psychologically and your emotional maturity and your spiritual value or your spiritual growth. So if you want those other three parts to develop, you can be educated about them, but you gotta deal with that part of the body that's associated with that. So for example, if somebody wanted to be more, the Jewish population, for example, is known for being more devoted in some ways. They know how to do that in their culture, right? And so if you stretch out the muscle groups that are associated with that devotion, you start developing that aspect of your spirituality, which is a fabulous thing to do, because these different spiritual traditions are coming out of the person's body, right? And are a source for that, even though the source is coming from otherwise. And so by you developing different parts of a person, some people can become better spellers. Some people are better now at chemistry, and they could never be good at chemistry before. And some people can get good at singing they could never sing before. And they've wanted to, but they tried and they didn't have access because that part of the body wasn't developed.
Wow.
So it's like you get to really help the person become their wishes that they've always wished for, right? And I look like a genie, so I like satisfying people, right?
That's good.
I look like a genie out of a bottle, right?
Yeah, I can see it.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I like satisfying, trying to help people actualize what they wish for.
Right.
You know? Yeah.
And, I don't know if everybody's familiar, but when you referred to your accident, do you want to share a little bit about your accidents and then what that led to and how you're able to share this incredible
What discoveries
modality
came out of that, right?
Yeah.
Well, of course, I had traumas in childhood that predated my automobile accident. The automobile accident was, my friend and I were walking across the street at nighttime, and we were hit by a car traveling 70 miles an hour as pedestrians. And
Terrible.
So my friend didn't survive that, and then it created huge biomechanical problems with me, and also a very big spiritual problem where I was disconnected from my life. Because I was running a movement and dance company at the time, a kinesiological research, and I couldn't do that anymore. And so it threw me out of my life completely. And that was my life dream, to be doing that. And so I walked, I was like only 28 years old, but I walked like a little 85-year-old, with these little teeny steps and everything.
Yeah.
And everything was very twisted in my body from pulling muscles and stuff, and I created some damage to my bone structures and stuff. But I didn't damage any of the joint structures, which was unbelievable. So then, in order to try to repair myself, I had already studied 4 years at the Harvard Medical Library. Myself, I'm an autodidact. I like to self-study.
Mm-hmm.
Not that I don't like to teach other people, because I taught people math at Williams College and at University of Massachusetts. But when I teach somebody math, I teach it based on how they're learning it and not how I learned it. And so a lot of people don't teach that way. They teach the way they learned. That doesn't work really. And so oftentimes if I'm going to learn something, I could go to somebody and they could be good at teaching me, but if they're not, then I'll become an autodidact and teach myself. So because I already spent 4 years at the Harvard Medical Library, I knew rehab didn't really work. I'm happy for everybody and what they're getting for results, but they're not getting better than they were before the accident. And that would be true healing, not just getting over the problem. But if you're really healed, you're better than you were before that happened. That's the only way, because you suffered for so long. So the only, God-given grace that would happen is that you'd be better than before that event happened, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's what happened. So I figured those kinds of things out. And in the process, it was a very fast kind of series of events. After spending 12 years running a lot of miles every day, and swimming twice a day, I realized that aerobic was fabulous, and it makes you very horny. It makes you very kind of sexy in a certain way, and it's appealing, but it doesn't affect your body biomechanically, really. And so I had to just make a discovery, and that's when I discovered that muscle have to contract when you stretch. And then you're literally changing the length of your muscles and repairing tissue. And then your bones get returned instead of being held in a traumatized, compromised position, a natural position actually. It actually they start to be released to be more in a biomechanical, natural position. And then you start upgrading your way that you're moving. But not just your body, it starts allowing you to handle your psychological things, how to handle your anger and turn it into love, how to handle your fear of not knowing into knowing, how to handle your anxiety and turn it into excitement and satisfaction, and how to handle your practical frights and turn them into actualizations of the life you want to lead. And so very specific muscle groups I found out are associated with developing those different aspects. So if you came to us, besides helping you, your body heals, we just help you, right? And while we're helping you do that, while you're putting out that effort and we're trying to assist you in your efforts to heal yourself, when a part of you gets developed, it's going to develop you in ways that you were never developed before. And you might have needed to be more emotionally mature, or somebody needed to be more mature analytically or thinking wise, problem solving. Somebody else needed more physiological health that they never had. And it could even be a genetic origin that's not coming through, right? They never got the health that another person would have. People come in with problems, right? Mm-hmm. Or they need life changes and they need to make better choices. And when you change certain muscle groups, they actually realize that they can be open to creating changes in their life that otherwise they kept trying to make that never kept working. And they didn't realize they needed to open themselves and find another way to go get that thing to happen. And your personality type is the center. I call you the genius of change. And so I think you know about how change works. And so people can learn just by being with you. The funny part about it, of course, if your high trait is change, it's good for everybody else before it's good for you. So you get to help everybody else change, and you map out the terrain or the domain, so to speak. And then in the process, you learn how to get other people to help you change.
Amazing.
In other words, everybody's high trait is used on everybody else first, and then they learn how to get other people to then apply that to them. So then you come finding me to help you change. See, that's how it works.
Yeah.
You know you need the change, and he's like, oh, that old guy, that little guy that looks like Yoda, that guy's got to help me with my body. How come my body looks so much better than his, and he's going to help me? It's like, oh, that guy's like 7,000 years old or something, right? Anyhow,
I love it.
So that's what we're doing, right?
Yeah, that's exactly what we're doing. And what we're about to do now is we're going to toss another log on this fire and get this thing ramped up before our cold plunge.
Oh, that's great. Yeah,
Yes.
We're going to get more hot.
That's right. That's right. All right, we're going to take a quick break. We're turning this temperature up in here. Are you feeling good, Bob?
I'm wanting more sweat. See how easily you sweat compared to me?
I'm a professional sweater.
Yeah.
I talk about this all the time.
Yeah, because I have so little body fat except in my belly, that it's very hard for me to sweat. So it takes a longer time.
Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's the reason that's the reason why you hold more magnesium than I do. It's like, does magnesium sweat out? Is that why I'm?
I don't know the answer to that.
That's a good question.
I'd like to know the answer to that. Yeah.
We've learned that.
I think it's more of a type-based thing and not a sweating thing.
Okay. Yeah.
I think the sweating's really good. No, I think it's a matter of your body's ability to ingest magnesium and also then to use it for your body. Based on your type, you have the least magnesium in the body.
And we found that out when in Idaho when I had cramped up like crazy.
You got
it was gnarly.
Cramping up.
Yeah. And since then, I've been taking extra magnesium, and I'm feeling a lot better.
Yeah.
Barely cramping.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
So you asked me to explain something about well, we should show them what that. I'm going to put that in your other hand for a second.
Yeah.
We'll show them on your microphone. So everybody knows that if you want to strengthen your bicep, you start where the muscle's long, you go where the muscle's short, and you add additional external resistance. And when you do that, it creates hypertrophy of muscle fibers. Everybody knows that. What they don't know is when you stretch, Most people just don't resist. They just yank on the muscle and they think the longer and longer. So instead, animals actually contract the muscle. So if you kept letting your muscle contract as you stretch, that's how a muscle stretches. It needs to be contracting while you're elongating it. And that's what animals do. You watch them reach forward and then you see them go, and you do it in the morning when you wake up and then you go like, but when you watch people stretch, you don't watch them go, they're like, and that doesn't really work. So when I made that discovery, we just had to figure out, I had to discover what movements could be made to stretch every muscle group and every individual muscle in the body. So that's what I did. And it turned into, because your leg and arms have to move either into up or down, which is flex or extend, they have to either abduct or adduct, and they have to either inward or outward rotate. There's 8 combinations of those 6 degrees of freedom. And so when we move your leg, say we're going to stretch the outside of your leg, the outside of your thigh actually, when it contracts, it lifts your leg up, it lifts it out to the side, and it inward rotates it. So while you keep lifting up and pushing out and rotating in, we actually do the opposite and take your leg downward and across and externally rotate it. And then we end up stretching out, assisting you to stretch out that muscle group. So that everything's like that. It's a biomechanical movement. And while we're making that movement, because you have 8 movements in your leg or arms, there's a 45-degree area or arc to make that movement in. So as we're moving you in that arc, we're looking for where you have the greatest resistance, and that's where the scar tissue is. And as long as you contract and pay attention to the area we're stretching, then what happens is that as we move there, it actually removes that dense fascia and scar tissue. And then the next time it might not be there, depends on how much scar tissue is there, or accumulation of dense fascia and stuff. And so that's how we do that, right?
Yeah.
So that's the muscle stretch. That's how it actually works.
And when you were discovering all of this, you spent the better part of, was it like 2 years?
I spent 1.5 years, so I know what you're asking me. What happened was that when I discovered that muscles needed to contract when you stretched, I started repairing my body biomechanically. And I was very happy about that because after 12 years of running an insane number of miles every week and swimming twice a day, my body was really quite fit, but my body wasn't biomechanically working well, And I had the aches and pains that I had since my accident, I still had them, even though I was fit. And so then one day I was stretching out my lateral hamstring, and when I was stretching it out, my bladder contracted. I was like, well, what does my bladder have to do with a muscle group on the outside back of my leg? And I called a California friend of mine, and she goes, well, that's the bladder energy channel in Chinese medicine. I'm like, oh no, I don't know. Oh no, I'm too Western. I'm definitely not going there. And I got off the phone and I stretched my lateral quad, and my real stomach contracted. And people would be like, you can feel your organs? I'm like, if you get hit by a car at 70 miles an hour, you're much more organ sensitive. And I had a lot of, besides biomechanical problems, I had serious physiological issues going on. So my organs were something that most people would not normally be aware of unless they had damage there or sickness there or something. And so I called her up and I said, so do they have a stomach meridian? Because I found out that if I stretched certain muscles, my stomach would contract. And I said, is it in the back of the shoulder? And she goes, no, it's in the lateral quad. And I said, yeah, that's where I found it. And then I got off the phone and I stretched out my posterior medial hamstring that I could feel went up through my abdominals into my serratus muscle group. And I was like, do they have a pancreas muscle group? And she goes, well, they have a spleen pancreas. And I'm like, well, I don't remember where the spleen is, but is it on the posterior medial aspect of the legs and go up? Does that meridian pathway go up to the serratus muscle group and go down into be down in your foot and stuff? And she goes, yeah. And I go, I don't know how the Chinese figured it out, but I'm going to find out by repairing those muscle groups if I can get a change in my organ. And so that's how it all started happening. So one by one, different organs in my body started to be healed and regenerated. It wasn't subtle, the changes. They were big changes. I needed big changes. The person that I was in with my accident died of internal organ damage. So that's the kind of impact that went into our body physiologically. So that's how that happened. And then, in Boston, I don't know if you know this, but in Boston, they like Mel Gibson's looks, right?
Who doesn't?
Who doesn't like Mel
Yeah.
Gibson, right? Yeah, sure. Congratulations, Mel.
You're a
right?
good-looking guy.
And it's not because of his geography. It's because of a way he knows how to be with other people, and he sees other people as very likable. He can really attach. I don't want to speak for him, but I don't know the person. But his type actually looks at people and sees what they like about them, and that reflects in his face, so then he's very likable. And when they look at his face while he's reflecting what he likes about them, it actually connects the person to liking themselves. And so that's the value. So he gets to look handsome or pretty, depending on, which gender and all that stuff. But the other person gets to be connected to liking themselves, which is a very deep form of emotional intelligence. And so that happened. So I walk outside and it doesn't matter, Gucci, Armani, what I put on, they're not doing Bob, right? But if you go to Costa Rica, they really like, Mel's here,
Yeah.
and you're there. I mean, they got me.
That's pretty good.
They like this look, right? They like a cute look. I'm cute instead of handsome.
Yeah.
And
The little Genie Yoda look.
yeah, little Genie Yoda look. Yeah. And so I then found out that when you were doing certain stretches, besides it affecting organs, it was affecting my personality. And that's when I got really more serious and disciplined about doing the stretches. And I kept doing them a lot of hours a day. I had income that would support me. And so I started doing that. And when I would stretch a muscle group, I'm like, wow, I'm becoming more honest. Not that I was trying to be dishonest, but I feel more honest now. Or, wow, I feel less anxious now and I feel more relaxed now. Or I feel more clear mentally about that idea, whereas before I felt confused. And I started writing all that down. So as I self-stretched, I wrote down on a piece of paper, as if I was the frog being investigated, what happened to me psychologically. And then it turned into a theory in a year and a half of 16 genetic personality types. So that when I meet somebody, because I know what it's like to be you inside of me, when I met Josh, I'm like, oh, I know what type he is. He's the genius of change. That's associated with appendix. And I think you're like this. And I told him, he goes, how do you know that about me? And I go, I actually don't know it about you. I know it about your type. But to know a person takes a lot of time. And because a person's much more than just their type. But if you know their type, then when I met you and I know your type, I feel a certain way when I'm around you and your type. And it starts explaining to me why I feel the way I do when I'm with somebody that's your type, and allows me to actually go beyond the type in order to know you and how I can be with myself and be with you that would work better. Because most people are having pretty intense reactions to other people. And if they know about types, actually, they can get through their reaction and actually really, they find themselves no longer criticizing the other person so much, and they find themselves really enjoying things about the person. To their great dismay, because they still have those other things they don't like happening. Yet they find themselves like, wow, that person has a beautiful nose. Wow, that person is that's a really honest person. Or, wow, that person makes me feel better. And so they get more of these positive things for themselves and for the other person. That's how that actually works. So on our webpage, that Genius of Flexibility, we have 32 videos of 2 stretches for each of the 16 different muscle groups, 8 in the lower body and 8 in the upper body. That's called the video library. And you can rent that for a month or use it whatever way you want to. And then there's also the webpage called the 16 Geniuses, or 16 Genetic Personality Types. And you can send in a little video that we ask you to send in. We've set that up for you to do. And we'll send you 16 to 43 pages on your genetic type, depending on what you want to subscribe for. Mm-hmm. And so that's what's happening. Those are the 2 resources for people. And then I teach a personality class every Friday night in Santa Barbara at 4:30 Santa Barbara time, Pacific time. And then people come from all over the world in different times to do that, but that's the time there. So then they can go to our webpage and they can find out about their genetic type. And then on Friday night, they can participate in a Zoom class where people know about types. Or on Monday night, I also teach a class, California time, that would be, I think it's 4:30 on Monday night and 5:30 on Friday night.
Okay.
Sorry to correct. And on Monday night, we stretch a trainer. So you get to see what it's really like for the people that do the work we do, how their body gets worked on, in both assisting them in self-stretches and also more therapeutically putting them on a board and strapping them down to isolate and go after different muscle groups. And then we bring that into the audience who's ever on Zoom to get those to happen for them. That happens on Monday night. And then on Saturday night, I teach an open class for anybody. So anybody at 9:30 on Saturday, anybody can either come to the studios that I'm at, either in Boston, our center in Boston, or a center in Santa Barbara. And if I'm not in those places, then it's Zoom again. And it's all about who's ever on there, like what do they need to know and what stretches do they need to work on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate that for my first experience, the day one of the stretching course that I attended, that class happened, and it was like maybe a couple hours earlier in the day where you had started to, type me and talk about my type and everything like that.
Yes.
So my mind was my mind was blown. I was enjoying the stretches, which I thought that's what I was coming there for.
Right.
I just didn't understand to the level of which the stretches
Could really affect the person, your psychology, right?
Yeah. And having that understanding in the relation to my body and
then
my
watching
mind,
it happen in class.
Watching it happen in
people are
class.
like, oh my God, these people know.
Yeah, having it happen to me and just seeing the reactions of others, having that feedback, that almost validation.
One of the unusual things we have
nuts.
about stretching, if you go to a gym and you're working with a trainer, the trainer might give you some feedback in terms of how your body developed physically. But for us, when a person comes out of a stretch, anybody that's watching might have not only be able to validate your change. I feel taller, my arms feel thinner, my leg is more internally rotated, my posture feels better, whatever that is, or a physiological change or a psychological change. And everybody watching gives you perspective, and they might see things about you that you've felt, but because it's a new part of you, you never really identified. And they're like, I see you as brighter now. And the person's like, are you telling me I'm normally dull? And they're like, yeah, dude, you're dull. No, what they're saying is that there's a logical way of thinking that is considered a bright way of thinking. And when we stretch certain muscle groups, that person looks brighter. And when they do, they have more attention outside, and they have more of a comparative analysis of things outside. Whereas somebody might change inside and they have more insight into themselves. And that's more of an internal phenomena. Oh, I feel less, say you're working with an athlete and they know that they get angry when they're competing. And I'm like, well, if you act out of that anger, you'll probably injure yourself or injure other people. And I don't want you to be perfect or anything. But the anger, you need to stay inside when you're feeling angry. And when you have that and we're stretching somebody and we're dealing with muscle groups associated with transmuting anger into an action to take to solve the conflict, then the athlete does the same thing. So they're really angry while they're playing, say, soccer, football, and they're really angry at this other guy who's actually been tripping them and doing really ridiculous things to them. Then what happens is that they stay inside and keep processing that, and then what ends up happening, their body starts to make movements that they would have never made before. So it's really important to know that you have 4 basic instincts that you need to know how to process. And a lot of Americans think if you're angry, it's a negative, or if you're confused, it's a negative, and if you're anxious, it's a negative, or if you're frightened, it's a negative. I agree, they're not positive. But they actually are telling you either that your relationship isn't working if you're angry with an outside object in yourself. If you're afraid, it means you don't know something. Something's got to tell you, otherwise you're delusional, right? If you don't know, if you don't have anger, you don't have contact with reality, because otherwise you think reality is happening. It's not. And then the same thing with emotionality. If you have anxiety, it means you're not satisfied. And so the anxiety, if you have it, will direct your attention outside so that you can start to engage with outside people or objects. And by interfacing with them, when they respond, you'll know how to get satisfaction. So we're really dependent all the time on other people. And so that's really necessary to know that you could process your anger into love You could process your not knowing into knowing or fear. You could process your lack of satisfaction or anxiety into satisfaction. And you can process your practical frights into practical solutions to create a life that you want to lead.
And that's why you said we need other people, and that is part of wellness. You need other people. You need community. You can't be just total in solitude.
Yeah, there's no way at all to have health without community.
And this modality brings people together with the assisted stretching and trying to just create a foundation for everybody to heal. Yeah. And I just love that.
Yeah, when you came to Santa Barbara, it's like, well, I have to create a community now where I live, because I not only want to be with other people that can give me perspective on my change, and I want to do that for other people, and that requires people that know how to do this in a community of people so that they can actually be helping each other. Because you could be doing a stretch and say you started cramping and somebody in the room goes, well, that's a deficit in magnesium. Or you could have another thing happening and be like, I run out of air when I'm running. They're like, I think you're low on being able to absorb vitamin C. And somebody else would be like, oh, you don't want to run on pavement, you got to run on pot. So everybody is a resource for knowing so much. And if you view them as a resource and let them tell you what they know, besides how they're confused, then what ends up happening is that that's what's required to actually develop. That requires a community. Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Well, how are you feeling about this temperature? Do you want to Joe jump in the water?
I think water's jumping is a good idea.
All right.
We did that, I told you, when we went to Norway, because when we were in Trinity Springs, Idaho, which has some of the best water in the world.
I can attest to that.
It was a really great
So
water. Oh my
good.
God. There was a dry sauna outside. And when we would do it, there was a plastic tub that was dirty. And so we washed it out really well, and then we filled it up with cold water. And then I started plunging. I just put in my lower legs. I'm like, okay, I'm good. And then the next time I did it, because I did it 3 or 4 times, I'd be like, I'll put in my thighs. And then occasionally, after a couple days, I would actually dunk my body in. And then later, I would actually dunk my head in. But when I went to Norway, you helped me get to understand that when you go into a cold plunge, it brings so much blood flow to the surface of your body. You're warm when you come out of a cold plunge. So in Norway, the ocean's much colder than that cold plunge we did.
Yep.
And I'm in the ocean, the real ocean in Norway, in a fjord, and we were just in a sauna. And I would go in that, and I would be in the water for like a minute or 2 minutes. I come out, I was bright red, and I was so warm. It was just fabulous. And I love all that blood flow coming out to my skin and everything, right? So we're going to do it now, and it's going to be warmer than the fjords in Norway.
It's going to be refreshing for sure. It's not going to be fjord-like.
Yes. Yeah.
So you have to come here in January for fjord-like temps.
I understand. We'll be back.
We'll
no
be back.
problem. Don't worry. He's
All
worried about us coming back.
Oh, he'll be
Don't worry,
back.
we're coming back. Yeah.
I love it.
Okay, great.
All right,
Okay.
let's plunge.
Let's do it.
Here it is. Bob Cooley is going to purify himself in the waters of Lake Minnetonka. So careful of the rungs of ladder, can be a little slippery because of the algae.
Yeah, I do this.
Oh yeah, that is so nice. Feels real good after we've had that stretch at 90 degrees. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
It's not even cold.
Yeah, it's nice.
Well, Bob's from the ocean.
And
Yeah, you just came from a fjord.
This is how you're supposed to swim with your head up.
Just like my long lost relative Johnny Weissmuller.
Yeah. See, that way you get to breathe whenever you want to. You know, you get to really enjoy the water. You're not like being angry and hitting the water.
Gives you that true propulsion out of the water.
Yeah.
Which is what made Johnny Weissmuller such a great swimmer. And he's also the original Tarzan. So I feel like I'm the aquatic version.
It develops good
of
posture
Johnny.
instead of bad posture.
You can come and swim here anytime.
Oh yeah, thanks.
I got another spot that's a little nicer though for you.
Okay. Yeah, no problem. You're fabulous. I'm not cold.
Good.
Where's the water deeper?
A little out towards the middle there.
Over there?
Oh, straight ahead kind of. Well, we're in like a channel,
Okay.
so it's not too deep around here.
Yeah.
but the channel will be a little deeper. Nice, eh?
Yeah. I'll get under. Okay.
Let's go back and sweat.
Yeah. Easy, John. I thought it was going to be much colder.
Oh, good.
I mean, Norway was like the Arctic.
That's a whole different beast.
Yeah.
I very much look forward to my
And
first.
people do it all year, right?
Yeah. Yeah, in the winter we maintain a big hole here, so it's constant.
Oh, yeah.
Cut it open.
Huh. Okay, cool.
All right. Great job.
Great.
So what'd you think about that, Bob? What'd you think about your
I
first
highly
experience in
recommend-
water?
I mean, I knew about cold plunges for a very long time, and I'm like, I remember when I was in high school in the 1840s that if you're a young guy, you know, you get in the cold shower to kind of calm yourself down.
Yeah.
But I never liked cold water, and so I was definitely not going to do it. So when we had that experience, and then when I went to Norway, it's like I really like doing that. You have to be very careful about the frequency you do it and what the water temperature is, and you know those factors are all important. And know how to get warm and what supplements you need to take to deal with, like your thyroids is a temperature regulator in your body, so you need to make sure that you're taking in foods and stuff that are good for you. If you're gonna, when you go into, I'm sure you know more about it than I do. The temperature differentials cause your lymph nodes to actually heal your body. And so your internal immune system, your thymus, your tonsils, and half the function of your spleen is your internal immune system. And your internal immune system is connected to your lymph nodes in your body. And that's what fights viruses and stuff. Whereas your external immune system is associated with your skin and your lymph flow in your body. That's recovery and things, right? And protecting you from things getting in. So I think you get an upgrade in your health if you do these. And you can do it in a shower, temperature changes. But I mean, if you have a natural body of water you can go into, and particularly a lake body of water, I mean, you're in the prize now.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Extra healing, extra
Yes,
points.
extra good. Yeah.
So as we wrap this up here, you gave me a fantastic analogy last night, just about the personality type and how it develops in each individual. You're saying how, as soon as there's contraception,
Yes.
like an initial building block is laid of
Right.
that identity.
Like a foundation for a house.
Yes. And then every human has all 16 identities within them, but it's at that moment that gives you your main identity. Is that correct in saying that?
That's true. You have access to all these different genetic types within yourself, but you're born one, and then the rest develop in a particular order. So, for example, my type is an analytical thinking type. So then the question is, like, when I go physical, which one of the 4 ways of physical do I manifest? And you and I are different types, so you develop a very different brand of physicality than I do. Your type, when you integrate into physicality, when you develop that part of yourself as opposed to the spiritual part of your type, or energetic world, whatever you want to call that, whatever you're comfortable with, when you go physical, you become very physiologically sensitive. When I go physical, I'm thinking a small hike, a picnic basket, and that's what I call exercise. See, I'm not athletic. Not that I can't be those ways, and I'm not so much into the health thing that way, and I'm not so much into the aerobic. But when I go physical, the first thing I do is I have to make sure that if I'm doing anything physical, it's got to be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So my type gets other people to know, well, if you're going to do something, it better be fun physically. And your type has been like, well, you better address your diet and you better address your stretching in your body because those determine your health. And another type is like, well, you better do aerobic, because aerobic's going to not only make you powerful and know how to create boundaries with other people, but it's going to hyper oxygenate your body, which fights viruses and ill health. Right? And then the type that's associated with athletic is like, if you're not being athletic, in athletic you learn how to be challenged by other people, which means that if you're competing with somebody else and they're better than you, or whatever, however they're challenging you, that gets you to pay even more attention to how you're learning how to do it and not be distracted by them. And that allows you to now know when you're in life and being challenged, that every challenge in life is telling you put even more attention on how you're figuring out how to do what you're doing. Don't disconnect, stay connected to what's challenging you. So these different physical ways of being teach you different things. Yeah.
Oh, I love it.
Fine.
So that's just like a little bit of information to try to help everybody understand this how powerful this modality is. So
natural stretching,
just like a cat. And I love cats.
All the
Who
animals.
wouldn't like to love a cat, or all the animals, right?
Become flexible like a cat again.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
regenerate your body.
I essentially
also.
wake up with you every morning, because now what I do when I do my stress in the bed, I can't not think about you.
Right?
Yeah. So I hope others feel the same way.
Yeah.
But,
we look forward to introducing everybody to these things.
Yeah.
We've given you ways to do it this way.
Yep.
And now we're here at the conference. What's the conference you're running now?
Spring Park Awakening.
Okay.
Yeah. Bob's going to be the keynote speaker. By the time this episode airs, this will probably be. The events will have already happened, but maybe it's going to be. I think it's going to be such a successful thing that we've created an annual experience with Bob and the crew at the Genius of Flexibility.
Oh, that's great.
So if you can't make it out to Santa Barbara or Boston, and in the meantime, plan for next summer.
Yeah.
As we continue to make this
Or
a
go
thing.
in our Zoom classes that way.
Yes. Or
but one of the things that I really liked about you when I met you, besides you, is that you're interested in protecting and upgrading and regenerating natural bodies of water.
Yeah.
And so I'm very much in favor of that.
Yeah.
I would like to support that activity. So maybe in a year, maybe more step forwards have happened in order to make this even a better body of water.
I love it.
Yeah.
We will make that happen together.
Okay, we'll see what we can do.
Well, that's all the time we're gonna spend in the sauna here today.
Okay.
We got to gear up for a big day tomorrow, Spring Park Awakening. Bob's going to be stretching some people here today to spread the love of resistance flexibility.
Yeah.
So we'll see you all soon.
Yeah.
Go follow the Genius of Flexibility. Follow Bob Cooley and
Thanks Joss and his number one person that helps him.
Melissa.
Incredible.
My wife. She is
Oh my
fantastic.
God, what's happening?
What would I do without her?
Yeah, everything he drops out, she's like there.
I can't wait until Melissa's sitting right here.
So
She'll be a guest at some point in time.
Okay,
That'll be probably like a 4-hour episode.
Oh, that'd be good. That'd be good. Well, it'd be good to work with her because I think Melissa had something to do with concussions sometimes, right?
Yeah.
So it'd be really great for us to film something showing how you deal with concussions.
Yeah.
Why don't we do that while we're here?
I like it.
Okay, cool. Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody. Stay sweaty.